Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another episode. This is your host, David Kim. Hi, Anthony. Thank you so much for joining us today.
It's a real pleasure to be here, David. I appreciate very much that you have invited me onto your podcast. I hope that I can be informative for you and your listeners.
So basically, I understand that your business is a BPO, right? Business processing outsourcing business.
It is. The popularity of BPOs has been going on for some time now.
Yep.
There are many different things you can do with BPO and shared service or captured staff or however else you want to call it. The nature of the work is very varied these days. We're getting into what we call KPO, which is knowledge process outsourcing, which is a sub-branch of business process outsourcing. And it's really just a more technical way to call more sophisticated work that's being done. So whereas before, if work was more admin support or customer support, now it includes that, and it's very important work, but it also includes work such as software development, business analysts. I have a gentleman who helps design steel in Cebu in CAD. For a client in Australia. So the roles that are being performed in the Philippines and indeed throughout the world are many and varied. It's really fascinating, David. Who'd have thought that it would take a pandemic to help open people's eyes and free people's minds to remote working? But that's exactly what's happened.
Yes.
COVID has forced digitization onto companies. It has also shown that remote work is possible. I think at the same time, it's also shown that human connections are very important.
Yes.
So we are not a fan at all of companies saying, right, we're going to move everyone offshore. For us, that's a very, I wouldn't say a silly decision, but I think it's a decision that's fraught with a lot of danger. We have to be very careful of our supply chains. We have to be very careful of acknowledging the great amount of IP and know-how with our staff that our staff have. At the same time, absolutely, companies should be looking globally for their HR.
Yes, I agree. I mean, not only pandemic crisis changed provide an opportunity to think about the BPO or remote working, etc. But also pandemic made us to accept the new form of the working. That's, I think, culturally very important.
I absolutely agree. I'd say that there's been a reset to how we view working. Yes. I think there's been a reset on how we view physical interactions. I have to be very careful with what I say here because I'm also a very big fan of physical interactions.
Yeah, we cannot. Human being is a social animal. We cannot survive with a physical interaction with other human being. Yeah, social animal. Yeah.
Indeed, we're a social animal. I personally love going into the office. That's just me.
Yeah,
and I think that what we're going to see from now and really going forward for the foreseeable future is that there will be a hybrid model where people can work from home if they choose. They can come into the office where they choose. That the nature of the office will still be critical, but will change in what is done. It'll be things such as meetings, collaborations, group events, rather than people being sat on their own in an office somewhere. I think the days of that are fairly numbered.
Yeah. You just mentioned about the job decrease, right, in the local market. But I look at in an opposite way, totally different way. If you build a team in sourcing the talent globally, working together, a company like yours, and then your client business become more competitive in the market, right? Then that they can grow the business much more quickly. And then that they need to hire more people in the local market as well, right?
I absolutely agree with you. And you should come and do sales and marketing at my company, David. You've put it very you put it very succinctly. Absolutely. We grow companies.
Right.
And companies that grow hire locally.
Right.
Full stop. There are roles that cannot be offshored.
Right.
It's very important for supply chain security, and we must view HR as a supply chain here, that you have your local staff.
Yes.
COVID has shown that very, very clearly, that you must have a good amount of your staff locally. But by offshoring certain roles that are good for offshoring, that you have evaluated as being very positive to your company if you offshore it, thereby you scale, thereby you hire more people locally.
And for those audience who are not familiar with your business model, BPO, people may be familiar with outsourcing, business process outsourcing, but offshoring. Can you explain what the offshoring is?
Sure. Where to start? So companies have been outsourcing for centuries. If you wrote a book, you'd have that book printed somewhere. That's outsourcing. If you had that book bound in leather, well, that's outsourcing. The offshoring industry is the creation born of technology. Once servers moved to the cloud, once you could have good, stable data flows internationally, that created the industry. So it's very interesting. You can point to the year that it started in the Philippines, which was 1992. The first BPO was established in Manila in 1992. And the industry, of course, has been growing from there. But the model isn't different to outsourcing locally. The only difference is that it's offshore.
I see.
So you can have offshore, you can have nearshore, you can have outsourcing locally. We are the offshore version.
Offshore outsourcing.
We're offshore outsourcing. That's what we are.
Got you. So what is your business model? Please explain how your business model works.
Certainly. So companies will come to us. So we sometimes get confused with recruiters. We're not recruiters at all, even though one part of the journey, one part of the customer journey is the recruiting side. The way that I'd explain our business model is that we are end-to-end HR partners to companies. What I mean by that is that let's take that startup who's looking for some software developers. They will contact us or we will contact them. Somehow we'll be communicating and we'll start that journey. We'll start that conversation. What is it that you're looking for? And they will come back and say, I'm looking for a developer or some developers with a certain type of skill set. We then go out and find those developers. We do the pre-screening, we do the vetting, we do the checking, we do all of that. Once we have comfort as a company, that's Tallant, we will present these candidates to the end client. The end client then, as a joint process, will do an interview journey. So we will be there, but the client also has to have comfort using their own interviewing processes. Once the client is comfortable with the candidate, then we contract business to business. So Tallant will contract with the client company. At the same time, Tallant will employ the staff member. That staff member then works full-time with the client. So we do all the payroll on behalf of the client. We do all the seating on behalf of the client. We look after all of the government interactions that happen around staffing. We're big on the cultural side of things, the team dinners, the team lunches, etc. All of that is done by Tallant. So we continue the relationship as long as that staff member is still with the client. We have a continuous relationship with the client. And that's where it's very different to recruiting.
What are the popular jobs? What kind of job are they looking for?
Number one would be software developers, for sure.
Yep.
Because there is a worldwide scarcity of resource. We have other clients that have graphic designers. That's a big one.
Yeah.
We have accountants is really big. So roles such as auditing. But what we've seen is that once the client has comfort with the staff members, that quickly moves from auditing to client-facing work.
Yeah.
So a lot of accountants, when they first start offshoring, think that the staff would only be able to do auditing work. What they quickly realize is the staff are very capable to do client-facing work, and that's been interesting. Other roles are things like customer support, virtual assistants, outbound sales. That'd be the main roles that we have.
I understand that like India and Vietnam and the very low level of software, the coding engineering, also Africa has become the popular destination very recently.
Yep.
So related to your demands of a client, I mean, related to the software programming, are you thinking about of the expanding your the business into those countries to source the more competitive and cost efficient talents?
We'll always have our home base in the Philippines, in
Yep.
Cebu. It's very close to our heart.
Yep.
But yes, if we do get bigger, I think we will be looking at other production centers because there is great talent around the world. And we cannot, on one hand, tell people they need to source globally,
Yeah.
and on the other hand, only source where we are.
Yes, I
That would be
understand.
silly. That would be silly and hypocritical.
Assuming that I'm the client, potential client in Australia, what
Mm.
is yours like 30-second sales pitch? I mean, how your service is attractive to them? How do you usually say?
We try and steer away from the cost competitiveness, but it's a very interesting thing, David, because there's this, I call it the mind wobble. And what I mean by that is that we know that cost is a big driver or the biggest driver in why people look at offshoring. We wish it wasn't. We wish that the biggest driver for people offshoring is to find the best staff.
I agree, but always is human word is money is the most important issue, right?
And of course, money is important. So
we want to avoid that, but it is true.
It is the truth. Money is important.
Yeah.
So the pitch that I make to people, and I think it is a real one, especially for the smaller businesses and even maybe towards the medium sized businesses, is to say to them, what was the reason why you started your business? Why did you start it? What drives you to put in those big hours, to take those big risks? What is it really? And it sure isn't doing accounting. It's not doing LinkedIn work. It's not building apps. Maybe it's not. If you're a software house, maybe it is. So I say to people, what is your core business? Focus on that, and the rest, get other people to do it. And if offshoring is one of the ways that you can offload some of that work, great, look at offshoring. But it's about focusing on the core reason why you do what you do and not getting bogged down with other stuff. And offshoring is a great way to allow people to go back and concentrate on their core business. And that'd be the number one elevator pitch of what we do. The secondary thing that I talk about is easing the burden of HR. HR is timely and consuming in all aspects. Anytime that there is an HR interaction, it takes a lot out of the company and the people that are involved in it. Whether it's payroll, whether it's holidays, whether it's superannuation, whatever it is, it takes a lot of work, especially if you're a small and growing company. When you employ a company like mine, that's all gone. For the staff members that you have with us, it's all gone. You get an invoice, comes in at the beginning of the month or mid-month, you pay that invoice, you manage the output of the staff. Everything else to do with HR is done by us. And that relieves a lot of burden from companies.
That's a good point, because as you mentioned that even for the very small company, they have run the every process, right? Hiring people and interviewing them. Thing is that I work with so many entrepreneurs, but most of people say it's very, very difficult to find the right talents, even though that they interview hundreds of times. But everybody have a very beautifully written CV, right?
Yeah, and this is the key. Where we start to really get advantage and differentiation, not with the BPOs. We've talked about that before, that it's very hard for me to say that I'm unique. But when it comes to clients, we have a huge advantage in that we are the ones that have looked at 20,000 CVs. Right? We are the ones that have interviewed literally thousands of staff, and we are the ones that have hired hundreds of staff.
Yeah.
So we're getting good at it.
Yeah.
We're getting good at it because we've done it so much.
Repetitive process.
We're getting very good at it. So we can see through a CV. We know how to check.
That's a very good point. I mean, no matter how smart they are, no matter how great company they are, I mean, doing something a couple of times a year, they never become good at it, right? As you mentioned. Yeah.
That's right. Whereas it's all we do.
Yes.
It's all we do. Even in technical areas, which is interesting. So I'm not a software developer, but I've hired, I don't know, 60, 100 software developers in my time, maybe more. So I've been through that process of looking at the CV, doing the background checking, doing the testing, doing the vetting, whatever it is, for over 100 software developers.
There are a lot of large BPO company, internationally well known.
Yes.
And I understand your company is being based in Australia. You have, I mean, unique advantage. Taking advantage of the potential client in Australia. Other than that, how do you intend to differentiate your services against the others in the market?
Yeah.
Business at the end of the day, we need to grow the business, scale the business, right? And through the specialization, differentiation, whatever, right? So client has a lot of choices. I mean, they look at all the options at his hand, and he will pick one over others.
Yes.
So even though I use the word the differentiation or being unique, there should be some reason for them to choose our services of others.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's something that I think long and hard about regarding our marketing, because it affects how we present to the market. What is our differentiation? What is unique? We're still not there, but we are starting to get some advantages, David. One of those is that we've been in the market for 5 years. The nature, I say to people a lot that running a BPO is very similar in its nature to running an eBay shop. And people are like, what? I'm like, yes, it is very easy to start. It is very hard to do well.
Yeah. It's a lot of operation, I can imagine.
There's a ton of people that continually enter and exit the market in providing BPO services because it's very hard to get right. We've been now going for 5 years. We've had clients that have been with us that whole time. So we're getting long-term clients and we're getting long-term staff. So that is a compelling offer to a business because it shows that we have stability and it shows that we can retain staff on a long-term basis, which I think is critical to the decision-making process if someone was looking for BPO. So we've got quite a few happy clients out there now.
Gotcha. So next question is, what is the biggest challenge in scaling your business and taking it to the next level?
I think there are always challenges when it comes to IT. You have to be on top of your game on IT and data security and VoIP. I think those things are quite critical. The challenge of being able, I'm just talking personally for my own business, David, rather than as the industry.
Yep.
We have fluctuated between what we wanted to do, whether you're going to laugh, we outsource our real estate. So we don't do our own rental. We use other companies. And the reason why we do that is that even though it's more expensive, they can guarantee the highest level of IT support and IT services, which is critical, and also that technical support. So I'd say that that's a big issue for us when it comes to scaling. How do we move into our own premises? How do we have our own IT? How does that happen, and when does it happen? And we've thought long and hard about that. We've made a few stops and starts in that area, but haven't quite come to a solution of that. And the other thing is always people. You cannot scale without the right staff.
Yes.
And that's from two different areas, the right staff internally. Now, I don't have a problem there. I've got great people that work for us and have been wonderful for us. And in fact, being back in Australia, I have realized that the company just runs. Yeah. I could disappear tomorrow, David, and I don't think anyone would know the difference.
Yeah. I actually I want to ask that was my next question. How do you find good people, smart people for your business? I mean, that's everybody say that. Everybody say that. I mean, yeah, find the good people. People is everything for business, but we don't know how, right?
Yeah, and I look at it in a different way. I've been blessed to have internal people that are brilliant. And like I was saying before, I've realized that the company operates independently of me if I wanted to. So I could leave tomorrow and the operations would still be very well run. The company would still be very well looked after by my internal team. So it's not just about finding the smartest people or the most experienced people, which is very important, and I've done my best. The important thing is to instill a vision to your team, especially your executive leadership, who then instill that vision to all levels of staff. Your executive team needs to know the why of the business. Why do we do what we do? And that vision has been instilled. We are all fighting for the same thing at our company. Of course, we're fighting for a great service to the clients and profitability for the company, but we're also fighting for a better Philippines. And that's why we get up in the morning. We want a great, stable environment for the Philippines people to really thrive. And we've all got that at our heart.
Got it.
If you do that, then you can walk away and you know that people are going to work as hard as they possibly can in the best possible fashion that they can. They will look after the clients as best as they can because we all understand why we're doing what we do. That's the key. So it's not actually about hiring the smartest people, because you can hire smart people that don't buy into the vision of a company, that don't buy into the why of the company, and they're far worse.
I couldn't agree more. I couldn't agree more.
Yeah. They're far worse. So it's give me someone that is passionate about why the company does what it does, and I'll give you a winning team. I've learned that over the years.
Yeah, absolutely. So what do you have on top of your mind for the next step and your vision with the Tallant, your company?
Yeah, Tallant, yeah. As I said, it's Tallant, Tallant, Tallant. Okay. And it's all about, of course, that we wanted the URL, but Tallant's good enough, and I've grown used to the name, and I do like it. David, the next steps for me are really trying to drive the business, I guess, in Australia and beyond, and drive different sectors. I've been away for so long that I was quite disconnected, I'd say, from a lot of things. I was in China and Hong Kong and the Philippines for 20 years. So I'm still getting used to. Last year doesn't really count, the COVID years.
Yep.
I think there wasn't a lot of opportunities to get out and see people. While this year I'm getting out and seeing people. And if I had a goal for the end of 2021, it's that we've had good growth in an area that we want to specialize in. Because the goal is that by 2022 or 23 that we are focused on one particular field. So that'd be my simple goals. And when I'm only half joking with the staff in our meetings, I say that my goal this year is just to have a normal year. The long-term vision, 10 years, we've expanded our footprint internationally for our production centers, that we are in Africa, maybe Eastern Europe, maybe somewhere in Latin America for our production. I would love that. I'd love to be able to start something in, say, Mauritius to service the Francophone community.
Yep.
And to be able to offer a truly 24/7 offering to our clients and follow the sun when it comes to our staffing. That would be the long-term vision for the company. And we either are very profitable and very happy, or we're very profitable and potentially a target of acquisition for a larger company.
Got you.
And I'd like, and long-term, I'd love to see the Philippines people being respected and renowned for the great work that they do. And indeed, all people around the world respected, no matter where they are in their location, and that they're judged not by anything else except the work that they're doing for the company.
Okay, thank you so much for taking time and sharing your entrepreneur journey.
David, it's been an absolute pleasure, and I've really enjoyed talking to you about it. Have a good day.
Thank you very much for listening to this episode. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast, share with a friend, and drop me a review. Goodbye.